This episode is the BAE HQ Q3 2023 update. We're going to keep it super tight and super short to give you all the information you need without all the fluff. I'll start off with a bit of a general update, then go into some of the events we've run, a bit about the podcast, some of the challenges we've had, and then some of the launches coming, and then finally how you can get more involved, which is what we really want. So one of the things you might have noticed is that we're going to change our slogan from Inspire, Connect and Guide to Inspire, Connect and Scale. And this, as we refine things over time, what we're focusing more and more on is those companies that really scale. And this doesn't mean that scaling is best in having a sustainable small business. It's just that in terms of niching, we can't cover everything. And ideally in the future, we will go back to covering small deep businesses and what's happening there. But what we're really gaining traction at the moment and we think we can add the most value is on these people who really want to scale their companies to the millions in revenue. So that's a subtle change from what we've been talking about before, but hopefully that makes sense and hopefully it's aligned with what many of you want. And as we said, we will be supporting small businesses. We haven't forgotten about you. We just can't do everything at once. So let me give you some of the highlights from the last few months since we did the last update in terms of events. So if I go in reverse order, so we had, 2 days ago, I went to my old high school to give a talk. My high school was full of British Asians and I was just like them. And what I was trying to do is open their minds up to all of the incredible things that people from our community have done. And it's a big part of what we want to do more of in the future. So for us, it's a really big milestone and really exciting to get into schools and give those kind of talks and to inspire the next generation. 2 days before that was a huge flagship event for us with HSBC Innovation Banking. Massive thank you to the team there. So that's Kofi, Alex, Devon, Naeem, Rachel, Avisha, Divya. There's so many people who've been involved on their side. I'm sure I've missed people out there, I'm really sorry, who helped make this event come together. So we had a panel with Dimple Patel, Jay Goodrow and Jeff Chowdhury, all incredible entrepreneurs. Make sure you check out the episode when it comes out. And we had 120 people there with plenty of VCs, founders, and there were so many people in the room who were talking about how they'd often felt lonely on their journey. And I was like, well, now you all know each other. And that was an amazing feeling, right? To see all of those people come together. And I don't know how many friends have come out of that, how many people are maybe going to collaborate, how many people are going to get funded. That's the magic, right? We're going to do more and more of that. Our event before that, I believe, was at Soho Works with Navjot Sawhney. If you haven't heard Navjot Sawhney yet, again, go and find the episode. He's an incredible man. He's created the washing machine project, which is transforming lives across the world. And what he's talked about with our small audience there, about 50 people who got to interact with him, and he could share the story of how he got to where he is and how people in the audience could also make an impact. So if that's something that interests you, make sure you check that out. If we rewind a bit further, I did the talk at Sky, that's the Sky. So I was on a panel with 3 other amazing British Asians for South Asian Heritage Month. And it was incredible to be in that kind of environment and see all of those people, to show them what we're doing and to get that platform was just amazing. So big thank you to the team out there again. So that was, you had Raj Mali, you had Nab Mukha, you had Tasha. So lots of people involved there who, and even on the other side of the people, there was Bob Sapir as well, who was doing the interviewing there. All of them were involved in what we're doing and really excited. So really fantastic to have the opportunity. We've also attended so many incredible events that I don't want to start mentioning them because I'll accidentally forget one and get in trouble. If we look towards the future now, we've got next week at Sifted Summit. So Sifted is the Financial Times' European startup publication. We're speaking there with our fishbowl and bring along some of our incredible founders to talk about diversification in tech and how we can get more people involved. So that's a huge moment for us as well, right? We're being put on the stage and put on the same page as the founders of Stripe, the founders of some of these giant companies. And that's all within our first year. So that's a huge, huge milestone for us and something we're really excited about. We've also got the National Franchise Exhibition on Friday. And franchising is a really interesting business space that I didn't really consider before, but there's many Asians doing incredible in there. So I'm interviewing Safwan Adam, who at the age of 25 started his first CEX franchise. And off the back of that, he's now grown exponentially. He's had a German doner kebab. He's had care homes, amongst many other things. So really exciting. And if you're in Birmingham, make sure you check that out because you don't often travel up there. And that's something which we're going to come to in a bit because that's the idea, is to expand more out there. We've got a couple of other events in the pipeline for November, but I can't quite announce them just yet. And then on the sports side, we've had Naeem managing that, who's done a great job, and we've had a few different games. We unfortunately lost against Latinos in tech, but we're going to avenge that loss with your help, right? So if you want to get involved, you want to play with us, it's a great way to meet people in a more casual environment, come along. We're going to be doing a variety of different events as well. So we've got these panel events, we've got these podcasts, but we're also going to have other events. So anything like that we think is a bit different, that can get different audience involved, let us know. In case you hadn't noticed, the podcast is flying. We're getting some incredible guests on. We've already had 76 episodes out. We've got everybody booked up until Christmas and some incredible names coming on. I don't want to jinx them by naming them now. And I wouldn't name any of the previous podcast guests we've had on the last few months, but make sure you check them out. They've spent their time to try and share their story to inspire you. So check it out. It's a education that's free, and it gives you the role models that you need to show that you can do this and you will do this. Massive thank you to Desi City, who are our first sponsors. That's Tani Atwell and his brother Kenny, who've been big supporters of us, and they're officially coming on board on October. And we've got somebody else lined up as well, but we can't announce it yet. I've made the mistake of announcing things too early in the past, and I'm trying to avoid that now. Desi City are a online marketplace for South Asian goods who are expanding. So they've focused on the UK at the moment. They've got thousands of small businesses signed up, but they're also expanding globally in the future. So keep your eyes out across the world. So again, massive thank you to Desi City. And we're in conversation with so many organisations about sponsorship. But it has been one of the challenges. So we will get into challenges now. So when I did the Q2 update, I was a bit over-optimistic about what we could achieve over the summer, because it's the first time we run this over the summer months. We kind of didn't realise that everybody just goes on holiday. It's almost impossible to get anything done. And we're resource constrained. We didn't have the capital. So nothing that I mentioned in the last edition actually came to fruition. We've had to adjust, and we've had to go through different challenges. So what I wanted to announce today is the launches that we're going to do. But first, let's go into some of the challenges, right? Because that's the reality of this. There are challenges. Is that what we've been able to do now is grow so quickly in terms of our network, in terms of people backing us and all these people wanting to talk to us and help us. That's actually difficult to manage that, right? Like, how do we get all these people involved in a correct way? And it's something which we think about a lot. It's like, we want to encourage people to get in touch with us. We want to talk to people, but we've got limited resources. We can't talk to everybody. And that's the crux of one of the issues we have. And one of the other things we thought is that we'd be able to get sponsorship a lot easier than we have. And that's been a challenge. There's different reasons for that. Obviously, with the cost of living crisis, there's always different things going on, has meant it's been a bit more difficult for us to get some of these corporate sponsorships. And we've been working on that, we've been building relationships, but it's still taking a bit of time, right? So if you work for a corporate who potentially would work with us and sponsor us, that would be massive. That would make a huge difference, because remember what we've been able to do with just a few of us. Imagine what we could do if we actually had somebody huge backing us. And especially in terms of the finances, right? If we could have somebody bankrolling us, and you can see the scrappiness that me and Gerver have done, we've been able to build something from nothing. Imagine what we could do if your company was backing us, if your employer was backing us. One of the other challenges worth mentioning too is that because we're not for profit, we're quite heavily reliant on volunteers, and we were trying to do some more user-generated content. But the challenge is, in order to maintain standards to a higher level, there needs to be quite a lot of training involved. And what's happening through some of the initiatives we've made is that it was difficult because it actually spent us more time to make those things happen than if we just created content ourselves. So obviously I've got the writing background, I can do that stuff quite quickly, whereas it actually took me longer to train somebody else to get that ready. So in terms of our growing phase, as we get more funding on board, as we are able to get more sponsors, then we can expand the team in that way. Whereas what will probably happen now is I focus and I get something to a high quality that serves you well, and then we expand the team later on in terms of those regards. And we can expand the team in other directions by the services, but the content at the moment to maintain that higher standard, the stories on the website, for example, will be less. And the book club as well, which I mentioned in the last podcast, is going to be rolled down for the moment, but hopefully I should be able to smash out some of those lessons for you pretty quickly. Once there's a longer backlog, we can hope to get more people involved. So that's a little bit on the challenges side, and that time management piece, which has always been a challenge, right? So we're learning, we're adapting, we're evolving, we're pivoting when we need to, and we're also taking the advice of our board in Dimple and Jay where we can. And there's so many people who, more than we can mention, who are also getting involved. So on that note, let's go into the launches we have coming up, right? Which is really exciting. So first one we have is, let's go for this one first, the Ambassador Program. So obviously we've interviewed so many incredible entrepreneurs, and it's one thing to manage that when it's like 10 people who've been on the podcast. Now there's 75 people who've been on the podcast. That's massive. And I can't talk to everybody one-on-one very easily. I can't give them the information that they need to be able to make a bigger impact through us. So what we're launching is this ambassador program, and it's aimed at people who want to publicly back us, put us on their LinkedIn profile, and what they get in return, one is a free t-shirt. Everybody loves a free t-shirt. And they also get a regular updates from us, which is like an investor update. So anybody who's ever done investing before as an angel investor, you get investor updates, which gives you the behind the scenes information, which is a bit more complicated, which you don't necessarily put publicly because there's so much explaining to go on, right? So we can make that concise. We can give the ask, we can show people where we're struggling with the ambassadors, and they can offer to help us. And we can also show them the opportunities of where they can make a bigger impact through us and some initiatives we have coming. Because if that's something that which they care about and they believe in, we want to get them involved. So that ambassador program is being launched at the moment. There'll be a link in the show notes, most likely, about how you can get involved in that. And we're going to onboard people that we already know well first before expanding it. Because one of the big things of any organization, especially at this early stage, we get the wrong people on board that can really poison the company and create that toxic atmosphere, which we really want to avoid. We want to bring those people on who are really going to make a difference, who really believe in us and really believe in what we're doing. Next is the Lab podcast. So you might notice this episode didn't come out when it was meant to, right? And part of it is just we're so busy, not going to lie, but it's also because we're now shifting the episodes. So the Lab podcast is coming out on Mondays and the Founder podcast is coming out on Fridays. Reason is a lot of people work from home on those 2 days, which we should hopefully see more people being able to watch the episode on the day it comes out and not get in trouble with their boss. So what is the Lab podcast? The Founder podcast, the one which you're used to, is with founders, people who tell their story. How do they get to where they are? Now, there's also so many people who didn't start their own companies, but also have valuable information, or they run consultancies, or they run other things that are tangential as opposed to product-based businesses. So what we're doing there is we're getting people on the Lab podcast, so people who are running massive companies and have really great leadership skills or domain expertise. So people who are head of product, head of people, CPOs, CMOs, those kinds of people, and get them to dive really deep at tactical into that. Because as we've mentioned, it's inspire, connect, and scale. And that scaling part needs that information. The main podcast, the Founders podcast, gives you the inspiration and some of the tips, but that Lab one will really dive into the tactical information to be able to make you, once you've been inspired, to make your dream a reality. So we're really excited about that because some incredible guests coming on. We've also got that booked out until the end of the year. We're very, very privileged to have the people that want to help us and get involved to want to help us and get involved. Like, we're counting our blessings every day. But that's really exciting. And it also enables us to create content, which is easily searchable from a TA perspective and create smaller chunks. So in an episode of, say, 30 minutes, there could be, if somebody wants to answer this one burning question, we have a 5-minute video on that. And that'd be one of the questions from the episode. Another launch that is coming soon is Baywatch. So Baywatch, very proud of the pun, is us highlighting people who aren't quite at the podcast level yet. Podcast level for the Founder podcast is 1 million fundraise or 5 million revenue. Let's say somebody who's a little bit below that, but they're a rising star. We want to showcase them so other people know who they are and potentially they can get investors. We can help them out in that way. So it's going to be a format that's going to come up for that. We'll be featuring somebody every week. If it's going well, we're getting the traction, we might do it more than once a week. But it's all to be experimented with, right? So if you're in that earlier stage and you want to get featured, let us know, reach out to us through the form. So you've got the contact form in the BAE HQ website. Make sure you fill out that. And when we say somebody rising, we're talking about somebody creating a company that eventually will do millions in revenue. That's our kind of idea. Because at the moment, we're focusing on that startup scene as opposed to small business. Another exciting thing coming up is our Angel Network, which Gervir is leading. And this will be all about getting people who've got a bit of extra cash, but looking to invest in startups, to help them along that journey, pull their money together so they don't need to invest as much, so we can help try and make a difference for some of the British Asian founders who are struggling to raise capital despite having great ideas. So there's one thing that's often said, which is that underrepresented founders are over-mentored and underfunded. We can't just be doing the mentorship, we also need to be doing that funding side, and that's what we're trying to aim for. So expect that to ramp up over the next 6 months to a year. It's not something we can rush into because we've got to be very careful about the financial side of things and making sure that we're giving the people involved all of the right information so they're making accurate decisions for themselves, and also make sure that legally we're doing everything by the book, because we don't want to go to jail. Before we head off, let's jump into one of the more nitty-gritty parts, right? So the BAE HQ has been not-for-profit so far, right? And the legal side of this is really complicated, and it's something which we were learning about, we didn't know about. And how it works now, so what we're planning to do is we're going to have the BAE HQ Impact and the BAE HQ Limited. So the BAE HQ Impact is all the not-for-profit stuff, everything you've been seeing so far, everything in the public domain. And the idea from that is that we're making that so it doesn't make profit, it's all going back into the business, all going back out into inspiring, connecting and scaling the audience, right? So we want to actually make a difference through that. But at the same time, this has been 1 year of us bootstrapping this. That's us paying for everything ourselves. And now we're just getting partners on board and it's helping out. But at the same time, that's covering the cost. It's not making us a living that we can then make sure that our bank balance doesn't get a massive hole in it. So what we're doing on that side is we're working with larger organizations, venture capital funds, big startups, big scale-ups, and we're offering them bespoke services on the private side that they pay for. And the idea of that with the Robin Hood model is that those guys pay us so that we don't need to take money out of the BAE HQ, and the BAE HQ Impact is what majority of the public facing stuff is going to be. So that nomenclature might be a bit confusing, but basic idea is BAE HQ Impact, not for profit, majority of what we're doing, all about making it accessible, all about inspiring the next generation. The BAE HQ Limited is where we're going to do advisory work and work on helping people get investments, which is going to be where we're going to get paid from ourselves. And that enables us to keep going and not have to get day jobs and not have to get income from other sources. So I hope that makes sense, and feel free to drop us a question if you need to. But we've got so much exciting things going on and we want you to get involved. If you're not already, make sure you sign up to our newsletter. It's in the show notes. You can also join our WhatsApp group, and that helps you to see announcements too. Get involved in Amarama, where you can see, well, it's me, on 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. every Monday morning on our YouTube channel. You can ask us anything, and you can also meet a bunch of like-minded people who are also trying to grow and scale their businesses. So there's a few different ways you can get involved there, and amongst the other things we mentioned earlier in the podcast. So we really want you to get involved. This is the whole idea of a community, and we're excited to meet you guys, see you at future events, hear from you. So make sure you get in touch, and thank you so much for listening. Hello everyone. Thank you so much for listening. It means a huge amount to us, and we don't think you realise how important you are, because if you subscribe to our YouTube channel, if you leave us a 5-star review, it makes a world of difference. And if you believe in what we're trying to do here, to inspire, connect and guide the next generation of British Asians, if you do those things, you can help us achieve that mission, and you can help us make a bigger impact. And by doing that, it means we can get bigger guests, we can host more events, we can do more for the community. So you can play a huge part. So thank you so much for supporting us.